Hello again, third grade. Today is lesson 3 of probability, and we are going to be talking about possible outcomes. It's a little bit different from what we discussed our first 2 days. And so if we look at our learning objective right here, you will see that you will find the possible outcomes for a single event. So let's go ahead and start unlocking our problem today. We're going to be talking about coins. So when you toss a coin, you get 2 possible results. And in probability, a possible result is what we call an outcome. The possible outcomes in a coin toss are heads and tails. And so there's only 2 outcomes. So the outcomes heads and tails are equally likely because each has the same chance of happening. They're both equal. All right. So as we scroll down, what we are going to do, I have tossed a coin 25 times, okay? And so we have to predict the number of times that we expect the toss heads and the number of times that we expect to toss tails. But 25 doesn't really have an even half, right? And I know that it's probably going to be around the same number, okay? So if we think about it, what we could do is I could break it up and I could say that I toss heads about, oops, let me put mine on there. I tossed heads about 12 times. It doesn't like when I make twos. There we go. And then I tossed tails about 13 times. This does not like me, huh? Let's see if I can use my mouse instead. Okay. And if we added those up, that would add up to 25. And they're very, very, very close. Okay. So that's not what I got. But is it okay that my prediction is wrong? Yes, because it's just a guess. Okay. So I had to record my results. And so I'm going to put the results that I recorded here in our tally table, okay? Remember, we did tallies last week with graphs, okay? And so I actually got heads 15 times. So if I did 15 tallies, remember if I get to 4, I have to cross, right? So that's 5, 10, okay? And then I'm just gonna come down here, 15 times for heads. And then I only got tails 10 times. Okay, so we're going to talk about the possible outcome of each coin toss. So we know that the possible outcome is either heads or tails. This one does not like me. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to write H and T for heads and tails, okay? So our possible outcomes are heads or tails. How many outcomes were there in all? Well, how many times did I toss the coin? I tossed the coin 25 times, right? And that says it right up here in our directions. Tossing a coin 25 times, okay? How many outcomes were heads? Well, 15 were heads. And that's 15 out of 25, so I could make it a fraction, right? 15 out of 25 times. How many were tails? 10 out of 25 times. Pretty big fraction, huh? All right, so now was my prediction close to my actual results? Yeah, I think I was pretty close. What do you guys think? Maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I know that we only had 2 outcomes. What if you toss the coin 50 times? Predict how many times you would expect to toss heads. Well, I would say 25. Because did you know 25 plus 25 is 50? And you only have 2 outcomes, heads or tails. So I would break it in half. And I would say 25 times. Yeah. All right, let's scroll down to our next page. We're going to go back to using marbles again. We're going to list all of the possible outcomes for the event. So Cal is going to pull 1 marble from the bag without looking, and we need to figure out what the possible outcomes are for 1 pull. Okay, so it says here, think. The possible outcome does not mean the total number of marbles in the bag, but the total number of different kinds of marbles. So every color marble in the bag is a possible outcome. So the marble colors are yellow, and I'm going to make a Y for yellow, green, and red. Those are our possible outcomes. So the possible outcomes for 1 pool are yellow, green, and red, because we only are pulling 1 marble and we don't know which one we are going to pull. So we could pull any of those. All right, so we're going to go down again, and we're going to talk about counters this time. Sometimes we use these red and yellow counters in our classes. So Ryan will pull a counter from a bag without looking. How many possible outcomes are there in all? Well, we only have a red side or a yellow side, so there has to be 2 outcomes. That's it. Okay, every color in the counter in the bag is a possible outcome. So there are how many possible outcomes in all? There are 2 possible outcomes because there's only red and yellow. And then we're going to check out the spinner. Karina spins the pointer. Which outcomes are equally likely? Ooh, that's an interesting question for the spinner. I want you to look at this spinner. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. If this were a circle and we were talking about a fraction, we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. Each of these pieces are equal. So does that mean all of these colors are equally likely? Yes, it does. Okay, so our possible outcomes are going to be red, blue, green, and yellow. Okay, and so the equally likely outcomes are the same thing. And I'm going to put an arrow, the same thing. Because looking at this probability spinner, which looks just like a fraction, breaking it up into fourths, each color is equal. Okay? So let's keep that in mind as we do probability. We can actually use fractions too. All right, well, that's our lesson for today. And make sure you go ahead back into your HyperDoc and do the next thing that's asked.